here. I've been here since I was on the street since I was 29. Off and on. I'm 36 now. I mean, when I got here, it was nothing like this.
Tonight, we're revealing a side of America most people never see. In some of the wealthiest cities in the country, people are still freezing in tunnels and on the streets. Billions of dollars have been spent, yet tens of thousands remain homeless in places like Las Vegas, Chicago, and Portland. This isn't about politics or blame, it's about reality. Real people, real suffering, real lives being ignored. Stay with us, because what you're about to see challenges everything we're told about America. This is the homeless crisis, exposed live.
I stand outside for an hour and a half and just waiting and waiting for somebody to come out so I could go in.
What's that like?
Cold, really cold.
What is the worst thing that happened to you in tunnels?
Probably the flood that we had a few years ago when I lost two of my best friends.
I'm back here in the dark, you know what I mean? Dark.
What is the worst thing that happened to you down in these tunnels?
I got attacked one time, like 3 Cuban dudes. One of the guys came in my spot with the damn machete. He was one of the top dog dudes. But I handled my own, so I had a basket and I took it in there, threw it on its side, stuck poles in it, made one of them little Maltese cocktails. It's the only thing that saved me.
"12 seconds after stepping off the Vegas Strip, I was standing in total darkness, and instantly I understood why people call this place a nightmare. My flashlight sliced through the blackness just enough to reveal something I never expected to see. Not objects, but homes. Entire lives packed into corners carved out of cold concrete, surrounded by toxic dampness, one flash flood away from being erased without a trace. And that's the moment the title, Inside Vegas's Tunnel Nightmare 2025, stopped sounding like a dramatic headline and started feeling like a direct warning. Because nearly 1,500 people are surviving, or trying to survive, beneath the brightest city in America. The question is, why here? Why underground? What heartbreak, addiction, loss, or system failure pushes someone so far to the edge that they choose silence over sunlight, darkness over danger, and a tunnel over the world above? Down here, fentanyl overdoses don't make noise, they disappear into the shadows. And the deeper I walked, the more it hit me. Behind the glamour, behind the casinos, behind the illusion of endless lights, lies a world most people will never see, but absolutely need to understand.
How long have you been down here?
Probably 8 or 9 years.
How is the situation here when it rains?
Horrific. Very scary. I've been caught up in it twice, and one of the times I really didn't think I was going to make it out.
What do you think about Las Vegas City?
A lot of it's almost like wallpaper, you know, like it's just made to look good, you know. These big casinos aren't built on winners.
As I went deeper, the tunnels started revealing the hidden lives America has completely forgotten. The deeper I moved into the tunnels, the more the air changed, heavier, thicker, almost like it carried every story that's ever been buried down here. And as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, one thought kept hitting me. Nobody chooses this unless something inside them has already collapsed. Up above, Las Vegas is selling dreams, but down here, people are trading dreams for survival, hour by hour, breath by breath. You start noticing the details, belongings stacked against the walls, makeshift beds balanced on milk crates to stay dry, clothes hung on pipes like tiny attempts to create something normal in a place that isn't meant for living. And it forces you to ask the questions most people avoid. How many of these people once had homes, jobs, families? How many were fighting addiction long before fentanyl turned every relapse into a death sentence? And how many just slipped through cracks so deep that climbing back up feels impossible? Because the truth is, the tunnels don't just swallow people physically. They swallow time, identity, and hope. And as I kept walking, I couldn't stop wondering, how does a country with so much light create places this dark and leave so many people inside them? The deeper I walked, the more I realized the tunnels aren't just dark. They're a perfect storm, built to destroy anyone trapped inside. The further I pushed into the tunnels, the more I understood that this place isn't just dangerous. It's engineered by nature and neglect to break people down. The ground beneath my shoes was slick, the walls sweating with icy moisture, and every distant rumble made my heart stop for a second. Because down here, one sudden flood can turn these tunnels into a deadly river in minutes. And that's when it hit me. People aren't just fighting homelessness here. They're fighting physics, weather, addiction, and time all at once. You start to feel the claustrophobia, the ceiling pressing low, the air thinning, the silence so heavy it makes your ears ring. And I couldn't stop asking myself, how do people sleep in a place where the sound of rain isn't comforting? It's a warning. How do they close their eyes knowing that one storm miles away could sweep everything, including them, straight into the darkness? This isn't just survival. It's survival under constant threat, constant fear, and constant uncertainty. And the deeper I walked, the more I realized this environment itself is part of the crisis, a silent enemy no one ever talks about. And then I started hearing their stories. Stories that explain how ordinary lives collapse until the tunnels become the only place left. As I continued deeper, the darkness wasn't the part that shook me anymore. It was the stories echoing inside it. Because down here, every person has a past that didn't start in a tunnel. It started in a home, a childhood, a job, a relationship, a moment where life still felt possible. And listening to them, you realize nobody wakes up one day and decides to live underground. It happens slowly, painfully, one step at a time. A lost paycheck, a medical bill, a breakup, untreated trauma, or a relapse that spirals into something you can't pull yourself out of. And fentanyl. Fentanyl accelerates that fall at a speed no human being is built to survive. People told me how one bad batch can erase a whole section of the tunnels, how overdoses happen quietly in the shadows, and how help rarely arrives in time because the world above doesn't even know they're here. And the question that kept circling in my mind was simple but devastating. How many people would still be alive if someone had reached them earlier, before the addiction, before the streets, before the tunnels? These stories don't just explain how people end up down here. They reveal how fragile a life truly is, and how close any of us could be to the same edge. This is where the title becomes reality. A true tunnel nightmare, built from floods, darkness, and 1,500 lives hanging by a thread. When I first came across the title, Inside Vegas's Tunnel Nightmare 2025, I assumed it was dramatic wording, the kind of phrase meant to grab attention. But when I finally stepped into those tunnels, when I saw what people down here actually face every day, the word nightmare started to feel painfully accurate. The first thing that shook me wasn't the darkness itself, but the warning signs bolted to the concrete walls. Signs showing stick figures drowning as water rises over them within seconds. These weren't metaphors, they were instructions for survival. Down here, pitch-black survival isn't a catchy thumbnail phrase. It's the unwritten rule everyone lives by. The darkness doesn't just surround you, it presses against your lungs, creeps into your thoughts, and challenges every sense of safety you think you have. You start to understand why people call this place unforgiving. Because down here, even the environment feels like an enemy. And the floods? They're not rare events. They're a constant threat. A single storm, even one miles away, can send a violent rush of water tearing through these tunnels, turning them into a deadly underground river in minutes. Everything in its path disappears. Camps, clothing, photos, medication, supplies, even entire communities. People told me how they sleep with one ear open, trying to catch the faintest rumble of water before it becomes too late to run. Then there's the number in the title, 1,500. It stops feeling like a statistic the moment you walk through these spaces and realize each of those 1,500 people is trying to survive inside tunnels designed to move floodwater, not protect human beings. Every corner is a life built out of scraps. Every blanket is a shield against the cold concrete. Every moment is borrowed time. This is what the title warns you about. A hidden world beneath the brightest city in America. A world where survival is a daily calculation. It's a place where addiction mixes with danger, where fentanyl lurks like a silent predator, where hope competes with darkness every single day. People here aren't just fighting homelessness. They're fighting an environment that can turn lethal without warning, a system that forgot them, and an addiction crisis that's swallowing lives faster than help can reach them. And what makes it even more unsettling is how close this world is to the surface. Just a few feet above these tunnels, people are celebrating, gambling, laughing, and living out the illusion that Las Vegas sells so perfectly. Yet right below them is a reality the city never advertises. A reality built on survival, loss, fear, and an unspoken truth. Thousands of lives exist in the shadows, in a world the rest of the city never looks down long enough to see. But nothing prepared me for the moment I realized these tunnels aren't just dangerous. They're a silent battlefield where addiction and survival collide every day. The longer I stayed underground, the more I realized that the tunnels don't simply challenge the body. They slowly dismantle the mind. The darkness is one thing, the floods are another. But the most haunting force in these tunnels is the quiet. It's strange because you'd think silence brings peace, But down here, silence is a warning. It's in that silence where fentanyl hides, not as a loud, chaotic force, but as a quiet shadow that moves through the community quicker than anyone can stop it. People down here told me something I never forgot. If it's too quiet, someone's in trouble. And once you hear that, you can't unhear it. As I walked deeper into the living areas carved out along the tunnel walls, the tragedies began to show themselves in small, heartbreaking details. A mattress pressed against a concrete wall, completely still. A man sitting beside it, staring, waiting to see if the person lying there would breathe again. A woman pacing in circles because she had seen too many people fall asleep and never wake up. These weren't dramatic scenes. There were no screams, no sirens, no flashing lights. It was all happening quietly, slowly, almost softly. And that softness is what makes it terrifying. People told me how fentanyl spreads underground like smoke, invisible, fast, and deadly. All it takes is a tiny speck too strong, a pill laced just slightly differently, or a bag cut by someone who didn't know what they were doing. And because everything happens in the dark, there's no warning, no early signs, no time. One person told me, "Down here, overdoses don't sound like anything. They look like someone just lying down and not getting back up." That sentence stayed with me. Here, addiction isn't judged because everyone understands what led people to this point. Trauma, loss, poverty, untreated mental health struggles, the collapse of support systems. Fentanyl didn't create their problems, but it turned every problem into a fatal risk. And the worst part is the helplessness. People who are already fighting to survive floods and darkness are now also fighting a drug that kills faster than anyone can react. They told me stories of waking up and finding someone gone in the morning, of rushing to shake someone awake only to discover it was too late, of crying quietly because crying loudly doesn't change anything. And the more they spoke, the more I realized that fentanyl doesn't just take lives, it takes hope with it. Every overdose reinforces the message that escaping this life gets harder every day. Standing there, surrounded by unspoken grief, by people who hold on to each other because nobody else is holding on to them, I understood something painful. The tunnels reveal the fentanyl crisis at its most raw, its most honest, and its most invisible. Up above, people hear numbers. Down here, they lose friends. This isn't just addiction. This isn't just homelessness. This is a constant fight to stay alive in a world where help arrives too late, if it arrives at all. But it wasn't just the danger that hit me. It was the emotional weight of a community fighting for hope in a place built for no one. The longer I walked through the tunnels, the more I realized that survival here isn't just about avoiding floods or escaping fentanyl. It's about holding on to the last pieces of humanity in a place designed to strip them away. People down here don't just fight the environment, they fight loneliness, broken trust, and a lifetime of feeling invisible. And that invisibility is what hurts the most. Because above ground, thousands of people walk the Las Vegas Strip without ever knowing that just beneath their feet, an entire community is trying to stay alive. What struck me was how hard everyone here tries to build something normal out of nothing. Someone had lined up bottles to create a small shelf. Another person had painted a tiny symbol on the wall to mark their home. A couple shared a single lantern because light, even a weak one, feels like hope. These gestures may seem small, but down here, they are everything. Reminders that even in the darkest places, people still reach for moments of dignity. And yet, behind those small attempts at normalcy lies a constant emotional battle. Anxiety becomes a daily companion. Fear becomes routine. Depression grows in the silence. Many people told me that the hardest part isn't the cold or the danger, it's the feeling that nobody would notice if they disappeared. That their life, their struggles, their pain, all of it, would vanish without a trace. It forces you to ask questions that stay with you long after you leave. How does someone rebuild hope in a place that takes so much from them? What keeps them fighting when the world above doesn't look down long enough to care? And how many people up there live closer to this reality than they realize? Standing there, surrounded by people who have lost almost everything, yet somehow still fight to hold on to the last pieces of themselves, I understood something important. These tunnels are more than a crisis. They are a mirror reflecting the failures, the blind spots, and the broken systems we never wanted to face. As I looked around, one truth became unavoidable. This crisis didn't happen by accident. It happened because the systems meant to protect people failed them completely. The deeper I went, the harder it became to ignore the real reason these tunnels are full. Not because people chose this life, but because every system designed to catch them collapsed long before the tunnels did. Homeless shelters overflowing, rehab centers turning people away because they're full, mental health programs underfunded, affordable housing disappearing faster than it's built. People aren't falling into the tunnels, they're being pushed. By rising rents, stagnant wages, impossible medical bills, untreated trauma, and a society that has learned to walk past suffering without seeing it. And the tragic part? Many people down here tried to get help. They applied for housing lists that take years. They sat in waiting rooms hoping for detox beds that never opened. They carried paperwork they didn't understand, made calls that nobody answered, and walked into offices where their names were forgotten faster than their stories. When every door closes, the tunnel becomes the last door left. What hit me hardest was how clear the pattern was. Addiction doesn't start in a tunnel. Homelessness doesn't start in a tunnel. They start in the world above, in households filled with stress, in communities with limited resources, in families fighting battles nobody sees. But once that downward spiral begins, there's almost no safety net strong enough to break the fall. And that's when the fentanyl crisis steps in, turning a system failure into a national emergency. Because when people are pushed into survival mode, when they're living without stability, without healthcare, without support, fentanyl becomes the quiet killer waiting in the shadows. The tunnels magnify everything: the danger, the desperation, the vulnerability. Walking through this world, you start asking uncomfortable questions. How can the wealthiest nation in the world leave thousands of people living underground? How did we allow treatment, housing, and mental health care to crumble this far? And why are we shocked by the crisis when we built the perfect conditions for it to explode? By the time I surfaced again, one truth was clear. The tunnel crisis didn't begin underground. It began with the collapse of systems above ground. And unless those systems change, the tunnels will keep filling, one broken life at a time. But standing in that darkness, I realized something even more heartbreaking. This crisis isn't just about where people live. It's about what they've lost along the way. As I made my way through the tunnels, something slowly began to change in the way I saw everything. At first, I was focused on the environment, the danger, the darkness, the floods, the addiction. But then I began noticing the details that revealed something much deeper. The pieces of life people still carry with them, even in a place this harsh. A photo tucked inside a plastic bag to keep it dry. A teddy bear hanging from a pipe. A birthday card someone kept even though it was stained and torn. These small objects hit harder than anything else because they remind you that everyone down here once had a life filled with people, memories, routines, and dreams, long before the tunnels swallowed them. And that's when it struck me. Homelessness isn't just the loss of a home. It's the loss of identity, stability, safety, and the belief that the future can still get better. Down here, you feel that loss in the air. You hear it in the way people talk about their pasts, as if they're remembering someone they used to be. You see it in the way they protect their small belongings, because those are the last pieces of the life they once recognized. One person told me, "The hardest part isn't living down here. It's forgetting who I was before all this." That sentence stayed with me, because it reveals something we rarely confront. The crisis isn't just physical. It's emotional, psychological, spiritual. Every day in the tunnels is a battle not just to stay alive, but to stay human. To remember your name, your worth, your story. To believe your life still matters even when society has stopped looking in your direction. And it made me realize that the real tragedy isn't the darkness people live in. It's the light they've lost inside themselves. The world above moves on, unaware of the thousands of lives that are slowly fading into the shadows. But the people down here? They're fighting for pieces of themselves most of us take for granted. In that moment, I understood. The tunnels aren't just a place people end up. They're a symbol of everything they've been forced to leave behind. And then it hit me. If this is 2025, what happens when the fentanyl crisis gets even worse? The further I walked, the more terrifying the truth became. This crisis isn't slowing down, it's exploding. Everyone down here said the same thing. The fentanyl hitting the streets now is stronger, cheaper, and deadlier than anything before. One pill can kill. One relapse can erase everything. And in these tunnels, where help can't reach in time, fentanyl becomes unstoppable. People told me how overdoses happen faster now, how entire sections of the underground community can lose multiple people in a single week. The fear in their voices wasn't just for today, it was for what's coming. Because if the crisis keeps growing, if more people are pushed into homelessness, if treatment stays out of reach, these tunnels could turn into something far darker than they already are. One man said, "We're not fighting addiction anymore. We're fighting a drug that doesn't care who we are." And standing there, I realized the truth. The tunnels are already living inside the future the rest of America is afraid to imagine. And as I finally stepped back into the light, one question followed me. How much longer can we pretend these lives don't matter? When I climbed out of the tunnels and felt the sunlight again, it didn't feel warm. It felt heavy. Because now I knew what existed beneath the surface of this city. A world hidden in darkness, filled with people fighting floods, addiction, loneliness, and a system that forgot them long before they disappeared underground. Up above, thousands of tourists walked past me, laughing, celebrating, living out the Vegas dream, completely unaware of the nightmare just a few feet below their shoes. And that's the part I couldn't shake. Not the darkness, not the danger, not even the fentanyl. It was the silence. The way these lives go unseen, unheard, uncounted. Because the truth is simple but impossible to ignore. If we don't talk about this, nothing will change. If we don't look down, we'll never see who needs help. And if we keep pretending this crisis isn't ours to face, the tunnels will continue to fill, one broken life at a time. So the question isn't whether this is happening. The question is, how long are we willing to look away? If this story opened your eyes, if it made you think, feel, or see the world differently, then I ask you to stay with me on this journey. These voices, these lives, these hidden realities deserve to be seen, and together, we can bring them into the light. So please, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to understand what's happening beneath the surface of America. Your support doesn't just help the channel, it helps these stories reach the people who can make a difference. Thank you for watching. And until the next documentary, remember, awareness is the first step toward change. Stay safe, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next video. Chicago, a city that never sleeps. But the truth that hits the hardest is the one most people walk past without ever noticing. Imagine this for a moment. The wind is cutting through the air, temperatures dropping below freezing, snow gathering on sidewalks like a cold, silent blanket. And just a few steps away, on those same sidewalks, under bridges, along busy roads, people are trying to live their entire lives without a home. Have you ever stopped and wondered, how does someone survive a winter night inside a thin tent on a frozen street when every gust of wind shakes the fabric protecting them? When passing cars remind them the world is moving forward, while they remain stuck in a struggle they never chose. Living on the sidewalk isn't a decision, it's a last resort, a quiet fight to make it through one more night. And this is happening while the city's budgets climb higher every single year, while plans, programs, and policies fill pages and pages. Yet somehow, $65,000 people in Chicago are still trying to survive without a doorway, without a room, without a safe place to rest. This isn't just surprising, it's shocking. Because behind Chicago's bright skyline, another world exists, a world that rarely appears in headlines, a world most people never fully see. And the questions only get heavier. How did so many end up on the streets of one of America's biggest cities? Where did the system break? And why didn't help reach the people who needed it most? The snow keeps falling. The cold keeps spreading. But the stories of the people on these streets carry a weight that no winter storm could ever match. This isn't just a crisis, it's a story of a city, a system, and thousands of lives caught in between. And every night, one quiet thought echoes through these frozen streets. How will I survive tomorrow?
Say are the biggest barriers or hardest parts of experiencing homelessness?
When it gets really cold,
That's true.
and and you get wet,
Yeah,
and you have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
That's and there's nobody. It sucks. Or when you need to use the bathroom and you have no bathroom.
That sucks too, yeah.
That's,
The silent numbers. How Chicago reached 65,000 without stable housing. Let's talk openly now, because this part of Chicago's story deserves honesty, depth, and full attention. The truth is, the crisis we see today, the tents, the sidewalks, the people trying to survive harsh winters without shelter, did not appear suddenly. It grew slowly, over years, and it grew in ways most people never noticed until the numbers became impossible to ignore. When we say 65,000 people in Chicago are without stable housing, it's not just a statistic. It is the result of a long chain of pressures, failures, and circumstances that pushed more and more people toward the edge. For years, the cost of living in Chicago quietly climbed higher. Rent in many neighborhoods increased faster than wages. People who were living paycheck to paycheck, working jobs, raising families, doing everything they could, found themselves struggling to keep up. Losing a job, facing a sudden medical expense, or even a small financial setback started pushing families into situations they were never prepared for. Many didn't fall straight into the streets. They stayed with friends, moved from couch to couch, lived in cars, searched for affordable rooms, and hoped things would turn around. But when every option is temporary, the street becomes the only place left. Meanwhile, the support systems are already overwhelmed. Shelters filled up quickly. Waiting lists for affordable housing became longer than ever. Community organizations tried their best, but the need kept growing faster than the resources. Even as the city invested more money each year, it often wasn't enough, or it wasn't reaching the people who needed it at the right moment. And once someone falls into homelessness, climbing back becomes incredibly hard. Because everything a person needs to rebuild, documents, stability, daily routines, safety, starts slipping away. This is how the crisis expanded. Slowly, quietly, one person at a time. While the skylines stayed bright and the downtown streets stayed busy, thousands of people were slipping into deeper uncertainty. Some lived in tents because they had no other choice. Some turned to temporary shelters only to find them full. Some simply walked the city at night, searching for warmth. And all of this was happening while Chicago continued to move forward, unaware of how big the shadow behind the city had grown. So when we talk about 65,000 people without stable housing, we are not talking about one problem. We are talking about rent, healthcare, wages, mental health services, addiction support, affordable housing shortages, and a system that couldn't keep up with the growing need. We are talking about thousands of individuals who were doing their best until life pushed them into a place where survival became the focus of every single day. And now the real question becomes clear. If the crisis grew this gradually and quietly over so many years, why didn't we respond with the same urgency, the same scale, and the same attention it truly required? The human reality, what daily life on Chicago's streets truly looks like. When we talk about homelessness, many people imagine a simple image: someone sitting on a sidewalk, someone asking for help, someone in a tent. But the real experience, the daily life of a person surviving on Chicago's streets, is far more complex, far more emotional, and far more human than most people ever realize. And today, I want to explain it to you openly, slowly, so you can truly feel what this life looks like from the inside. Imagine waking up in the early morning, not in a bedroom, not on a bed, but in a tent or under a bridge, where the first thing you feel is the cold pressing against your skin. The city is waking up, trains are moving, people are rushing to work, but you're not thinking about routines or plans. You're thinking about warmth, about safety, about where you'll go next. Every single day starts with a simple question: what do I need to do just to get through today? For many people, finding a safe spot is the first challenge. A sidewalk or a tent might give temporary shelter, but it never offers security. People often keep their belongings close because losing even one small bag can mean losing everything they own. Imagine living in a way where every object you carry, blankets, clothes, documents, small personal items, is all you have left of your former life. And at any time, it can disappear because of weather, police cleanups, or simple chance. Then comes the challenge of basic needs: finding food, water, a restroom, a place to warm up for a moment. These are things most people never think twice about, yet for someone on the streets, Each one requires time, effort, and constant searching. Many rely on community centers, churches, or outreach teams, but those resources can only do so much, and they can't be everywhere at once. And through all of this, there's the emotional weight. The feeling of being watched but not seen. The feeling of being close to thousands of people, yet still invisible. Some individuals deal with health challenges, both physical and mental, that become harder to manage without stability. Others face barriers like job loss, family separation, or struggles with substance use, and without proper support systems, these challenges can deepen over time. But none of these stories make someone less human. Each person is carrying circumstances, memories, and hopes that the world rarely takes time to understand. As the day turns into night, the struggle shifts again. Finding a safe place to rest becomes the priority. Chicago winters are unforgiving, and even in warmer months, the streets never fully feel safe. People listen to the sounds of the city, not for comfort, but to stay alert, to protect themselves, to survive. Rest is never deep, never peaceful, because the environment never truly allows it. And this is what we often forget. Life on the streets is not defined by laziness or choice. It is defined by survival. Survival in a world where every day requires strength, resilience, and an ability to endure challenges that most people will never face. So when we see someone living in a tent, or resting on a sidewalk, or carrying their belongings from one place to another, we're not seeing a moment. We're seeing a journey. A journey filled with hardship, quiet endurance, and a constant search for stability that remains just out of reach. And this brings us to the next difficult question we must face. If this is what daily life looks like, why hasn't our system built a path strong enough to guide people out of it? The system gap. Why billion-dollar budgets still struggle to fix the crisis. Let's speak honestly now, because this is the point where everyone asks the same question. If the city spends billions, why is the crisis still growing? And the answer isn't simple, because the gap isn't made of one failure, it's made of many small cracks that turned into one large one. Chicago invests huge amounts of money every year into housing programs, emergency shelters, outreach teams, and long-term support services. On paper, the numbers look strong. But when you place those numbers against the real-life needs of tens of thousands of people, that's when the gaps begin to appear clearly. One of the biggest challenges is timing. Help often arrives too late, after someone has already lost stability, lost opportunities, or lost access to the support that could have kept them safe. Once a person ends up on the streets, their situation becomes much harder to repair, and the resources needed become far greater. Another gap comes from coordination. There are many agencies, organizations, and departments working to help, each with its own process, rules, and limitations. But when these systems don't move together in a connected way, people can slip through the spaces between them. Someone may get housing assistance, but not mental health support. Someone may receive temporary shelter, but no long-term plan. Someone may qualify for help, but wait months before it reaches them. And then there is the challenge of capacity. Shelters can only hold so many people. Affordable housing units take time to build. Outreach teams can only cover certain areas each day. Even when the city tries to scale up its response, the crisis grows faster than the solutions can expand. Add to this the rising cost of living, rent increasing, wages not matching inflation, and basic essentials becoming harder to afford. These pressures create new waves of people entering unstable situations, sometimes faster than the system can respond. But the deepest gap, the one people rarely talk about, is the difference between policy and reality. Policies are written in offices. Reality happens on sidewalks, in tents, under bridges, in shelters, in hospitals, in community centers. And often, the two don't match. A policy may look effective on paper, but for someone living outside, facing health challenges or barriers to employment, or struggling without identification or transportation, that same policy becomes almost impossible to access. And when systems require paperwork, appointments, waiting lists, background checks, or long processing times, many people simply cannot keep up. So yes, the city spends billions. Yes, there are programs and plans. Yes, the intention is there. But when the crisis grows faster than solutions, when the process moves slower than the need, when resources don't align perfectly with real human circumstances, the result is what we see today. A system that tries, but cannot keep pace. And this leads us to the next part of the story, one that is emotional, complex, and deeply human. What happens when a city's efforts fall short and the responsibility falls on everyday people, communities, and neighborhoods to respond? Community versus crisis. How Chicago's residents are shouldering a burden too big to ignore. As Chicago's homelessness crisis grows, something powerful is happening quietly in the background. Something that rarely makes headlines but reveals the true heart of this city. While official systems struggle to keep up, it is often ordinary residents, neighbors, and local groups who step forward to fill the gaps. Walk through different neighborhoods and you'll notice it. A cafe offering warm meals in the early morning. A family leaving jackets and blankets on a corner for anyone who needs them. Churches extending their hours during cold nights. Volunteers checking on people in tents just to make sure they're safe. These gestures are not part of government programs. They come from compassion, from the simple belief that no one should face harsh weather or isolation alone. And yet, these small acts often carry more emotional weight than any policy document. They show a community trying to protect its most vulnerable members, even when resources are limited. But this quiet effort also creates a deep emotional conflict for many residents. They want safety in their neighborhoods, they want order, but they also want mercy. They want the government to step in with stronger solutions, but they also recognize that change is slow, too slow for the people living outside right now. So the responsibility shifts, sometimes unfairly, onto the shoulders of everyday citizens. People with jobs, families, and their own struggles still find the time to offer help because they can't ignore the crisis unfolding on the streets they walk every day. These acts of kindness show Chicago's humanity, but they also reveal a painful reality. Community compassion alone cannot solve a crisis this large. And that leads to the next question. If people are trying this hard, why does the crisis continue to grow? Life at the edge. How health challenges, addiction struggles, and unhealed trauma shape the crisis. To understand why Chicago's homelessness crisis keeps expanding, we have to look deeper than tents and sidewalks. The real story lies within the personal struggles people carry, struggles that slowly push them toward instability long before anyone notices. And these struggles are not simple. They involve health challenges, emotional wounds, and years of unaddressed trauma that the current system is not designed to heal all at once. Many people experiencing homelessness face medical issues that became difficult to manage without stability. Imagine trying to control diabetes, heart conditions, or chronic pain while living outside. Something as basic as keeping medication safe, staying warm, or maintaining a regular schedule becomes almost impossible. Small health concerns turn into serious problems because the environment offers no relief. Not having a stable place to recover creates a cycle where the body weakens and life becomes harder each day. Then there are individuals dealing with substance dependence. This subject is often misunderstood and judged harshly. But the truth is that many turn to substances while coping with stress, trauma, or emotional pain. Others develop addiction after losing housing or support systems. Substance dependence is a health issue, not a character flaw, and recovery requires stability, guidance, and long-term treatment. On the streets, where fear and uncertainty never fully leave, recovery becomes incredibly difficult. Emotional trauma is another deeply rooted factor. A large number of people living outside have faced experiences that left lasting scars: family instability, childhood hardships, violence, abuse, or sudden life changes. When trauma goes untreated, it follows a person through every phase of life. It affects decision-making, relationships, and the ability to trust or rebuild. Without support, the burden becomes heavier with time. These challenges are connected. A medical issue can lead to job loss. Job loss can lead to instability. Instability can worsen mental health. Mental health struggles can lead to increased substance use. Once the cycle begins, climbing out of it becomes incredibly hard without consistent help. This is why homelessness grows, not because people don't want help, but because the help available often addresses only one part of a much larger problem. Someone may get shelter, but no health care. They may receive medical attention, but no long-term housing. They may get temporary support, but no path forward. So when we see someone living outside, we're seeing a person fighting through layers of health challenges, emotional wounds, and survival pressure. And that leads us to an important truth. To solve homelessness, we must support the human being, not just the situation. Encampments, cleanups, and controversy. Is the city fixing the crisis or just moving it? As Chicago's homelessness crisis becomes more visible, the city faces a complicated and emotional challenge. What to do about the growing encampments appearing under bridges, along sidewalks, and throughout public spaces? These tents represent far more than temporary shelters. They are the final option for people who have nowhere else to go. But they also create difficult questions for the city, for neighborhoods, and for the people living inside them. When residents see an encampment, they often feel a mix of concern, fear, compassion, and frustration. Families want safe streets, businesses want stability, travelers want comfort, and at the same time, no one wants to see another human being living in harsh conditions, exposed to weather, uncertainty, and instability. This emotional tension shapes almost every public debate around homelessness. In response, the city conducts cleanups, organized efforts to remove tents, clear sidewalks, and relocate belongings. Officials often explain these actions as necessary for public safety, sanitation, and urban management. They emphasize that the goal is not punishment, but maintaining order and offering services. But for the people living in those encampments, the experience can feel very different. A cleanup often means losing the small amount of stability they have managed to build. A spot to sleep, a place to keep personal belongings, a familiar routine, or a support network within the encampment. And this is where the controversy begins. Supporters of cleanups argue that public spaces should remain functional and safe for everyone. Critics argue that removing tents without providing lasting alternatives simply shifts the crisis from one block to another. The central question becomes clear. Are we addressing homelessness, or are we just moving it to a different location? Encampments exist because shelters are full, waiting lists are long, and affordable housing is limited. When cleanups happen without long-term solutions, people often return to the streets, rebuilding their tents in different places. The problem doesn't disappear, it just becomes less visible for a moment. For many Chicagoans, this creates a painful realization. The city is stuck between maintaining public order and protecting the dignity of those who have nowhere else to go. And the people caught in the middle, those living in the encampments, are forced to move again and again, without the stability needed to rebuild their lives. So the controversy isn't really about tents. It's about a bigger question the city still struggles to answer. How do you balance safety, compassion, and long-term change without leaving anyone behind? A city on edge, fear, compassion, and the uncertain future of Chicago. As we come to the end of this story, we need to look at one final piece of the crisis, the emotions of Chicago itself. Because behind every headline, behind every tent, behind every cleanup or policy debate, there is a city full of people trying to understand what is happening around them. Chicago in 2025 is a city caught between two powerful emotions: concern for safety and compassion for those who are struggling. Residents walk the same streets where tents stand in rows. They pass individuals living without shelter on their way to work or school. They see the crisis growing in places that once felt steady and familiar. And slowly, a feeling begins to settle in. A feeling that the city they love is changing, and no one is certain where it's heading. Some residents feel fear. Fear that their neighborhoods are becoming less predictable. Fear that the systems they rely on are cracking. Fear that the crisis might spread faster than solutions can catch up. Others feel sorrow. They look at people living outside and wonder how many of them once had stable lives, jobs, families. How many simply fell through cracks that no one repaired in time. And then there are those who feel something even more complicated. A mix of frustration, empathy, and helplessness. They want to help, but they don't know how. They want solutions, but they don't know where they will come from. They want safety, but they also want mercy. They want the crisis to end, but they know it will not disappear overnight. This emotional divide is shaping Chicago's future. It is creating questions that echo across neighborhoods, city council meetings, shelters, and community groups. Can the city protect everyone? Will new programs be enough? How long can people survive in such harsh conditions? And what happens if nothing changes? The truth is that Chicago stands at a crossroads. On one side is a continued cycle of tents, cleanups, and temporary fixes. On the other side is the possibility of long-term solutions, affordable housing, mental health support, addiction recovery pathways, and policies built around human realities rather than quick appearances. And the direction Chicago chooses in the next few years will determine what its streets look like for a generation. This story began with frozen nights, billion-dollar budgets, and 65,000 people without a stable place to call home. But it ends with a question only the city, its leaders, and its people can answer. Will Chicago continue to manage the crisis, or finally transform it? Whatever comes next, one truth remains clear. Behind every tent, every street corner, every silent struggle, there is a human life waiting for change, and their story is not finished yet. Thank you for walking through this story with us. If this journey opened your eyes or touched your heart, then support the mission. Like the video, subscribe to Gobe Path Travel Documentary, and stay ready for the next story coming soon. A new city, a new reality, a new truth. See you in the next documentary.
name's Kimmy Murray, and I'm 53 years old, and I'm homeless. I'm vision impaired and disabled. Me and my husband alone have put in hours to get help from different agencies, churches, you name it. We're doing the footwork. We have an income.
In Portland today, tents line entire blocks where apartments once stood. A city once praised for progress now faces a collapse that few dare to acknowledge. And the thumbnail you clicked, urban decay, Portland 2025, wasn't exaggeration. What you saw there is the reality unfolding right now. This isn't just Portland's problem. It's a preview of what could happen in cities across America. Why is America pretending this collapse isn't happening? Think of people spending the night on a cold footpath, with nothing but a thin sheet of cardboard between them and the street. Imagine trying to rest while cars rush past, without shelter, without comfort, without safety. These are the scenes that define Portland's crisis today. How did a place known for creativity and culture reach this point so fast? And what happens next if other cities follow the same path? Why Portland's streets are filled with struggles, housing, health, and the fentanyl crisis. Portland's collapse isn't just about empty buildings, it's about people. Every tent, every cardboard bed on the sidewalk tells a story of survival in a city under pressure. Rent has climbed so high that families are forced to choose between food, medicine, or keeping a roof. And when they can't, the street becomes the only option. Picture a father working 2 jobs, still unable to cover rising rent, watching his family lose their apartment despite all his effort. Mental health challenges add another layer. Support systems are stretched thin, and waiting lists for treatment can last months. Imagine someone struggling with severe anxiety, reaching out for help, but never getting an appointment. Without care, stability slips away, and the sidewalk becomes the fallback. Then there's fentanyl, a synthetic drug that has swept across America. It's cheap, powerful, and dangerously addictive. In Portland, it has trapped thousands in cycles of instability. Think of a construction worker who once had steady pay, now living under a bridge after losing everything to addiction. These aren't distant tragedies. They're the daily reality shaping the city's streets. Encampments grow not because people want them, but because affordable housing is scarce and shelters are full. For many, a thin sheet of cardboard is the only barrier between them and the cold pavement. Families spend nights under open skies, workers sleep beside shuttered storefronts, and entire blocks transform into ghost zones. So the questions become sharper. How did a city of progress collapse so fast? Why is America turning away from its own streets? And what happens when every city faces the same storm? Portland's struggle is not isolated. Rising rents, untreated health challenges, and the spread of fentanyl are reshaping urban life across the nation. If this collapse can happen here, in a city once praised for creativity and culture, what stops it from happening everywhere? The consequences aren't abstract. They're economic. Businesses closing, jobs disappearing. They're social. Families fractured, communities destabilized. They're cultural. Cities losing the very identity that once defined them. Stay with me, because the deeper we go, the more urgent the truth becomes. Portland's collapse is not just about today. It's about the future of urban America, and whether our cities can survive the pressures tearing them apart. Portland is not alone. How America's biggest cities are showing the same warning signs. Portland's collapse is not just a local crisis. It's a mirror reflecting what could happen across the United States. When you look closely, the struggles here are the same struggles appearing in other cities, only at different scales. Take San Francisco. Rising rents, visible encampments, and the fentanyl epidemic have reshaped entire neighborhoods. Families who once thrived in the Bay Area now face the same impossible choices as those in Portland. Pay rent or pay for survival. The streets tell a story of a city under pressure, just like Portland's. Seattle shows another side of the same storm. Tent encampments have grown along highways and in public parks. Mental health resources are stretched thin, leaving people waiting months for treatment. The result? More individuals sleeping outdoors, more communities struggling to hold together. Even New York, America's largest city, is not immune. Shelters are overflowing, housing costs are at historic highs, and addiction challenges continue to rise. Behind the bright lights of Times Square, there are stories of workers who lost jobs and now spend nights in subway stations or on sidewalks. These examples reveal a pattern. Portland is not alone. It is part of a national wave of urban decay driven by three forces: unaffordable housing, untreated health struggles, and the spread of fentanyl. Each city shows the same warning signs, and together they paint a picture of what America's future could look like if these issues remain unaddressed. So the sharper questions must be asked. How did cities celebrated for progress collapse so quickly? Why is America turning away from its own streets, pretending these struggles are invisible? And what happens when every city faces the same storm at once? The consequences are already visible. Economically, businesses close and jobs disappear. Socially, families fracture and communities weaken. Culturally, cities lose the identity that once defined them: the art, the innovation, the sense of pride. If Portland's collapse spreads, the impact will not stop at city borders. It will ripple across the nation, affecting everyone. Imagine the future if nothing changes. Sidewalks lined with tents in every downtown, families sleeping in cars outside every suburb, and addiction crises overwhelming health systems coast to coast. That is the trajectory Portland warns us about. Stay with me, because the deeper we go, the more urgent the truth becomes. Portland's collapse is not just about one city. It's about whether America's urban centers can survive the pressures tearing them apart. And what happens next will shape the nation's economy, society, and culture for years to come. Portland's collapse through human eyes. What it means for all of us. Portland's story is not about blame. It's about people, ordinary lives caught in extraordinary struggles. When we talk about collapse, we're not pointing fingers at governments or nations. We're showing the human reality of what happens when housing, health, and addiction pressures collide. Walk through downtown, and you'll see the economic side of this crisis. Businesses close, jobs vanish, streets grow quiet. Imagine a shopkeeper locking the doors for the last time, standing in front of a store that once buzzed with customers but now sits empty. That's not just economics, it's a life's work disappearing. Then there's the social side. Families fracture under the weight of rising costs and limited support. Picture a child sitting under a streetlight, trying to finish homework because there's no home to return to. That's not just instability, it's a childhood shaped by survival. Culture fades too. Cities lose the energy that once defined them. Think of a music venue that used to pulse with sound, now silent, its stage gathering dust. That's not just decline, it's the loss of identity, the fading of pride. These aren't abstract consequences. They're lived experiences. And Portland is showing us what happens when rent climbs beyond reach, when mental health care is delayed for months, and when fentanyl spreads faster than recovery resources can respond. So the questions must grow sharper. How did a city once celebrated for progress reach this point so fast? Why is America turning away from its own streets, treating these struggles as invisible when they're happening in plain sight? And what happens when every city faces the same storm, while the nation keeps looking away? Portland's warning is clear. San Francisco, Seattle, New York, each shows similar signs: rising rents, overflowing shelters, addiction crises, empty storefronts. Together, they reveal a pattern that could reshape urban life across the country. And time is running out. If these pressures continue, sidewalks lined with tents will become the new normal. Families will spend nights in cars across suburbs. Communities will fracture under the weight of housing, health, and addiction crises. The collapse of one city is not just a local tragedy. It's a signal, a warning, a story that tells us what could happen everywhere if we don't act. Stay with me, because the final chapters of this story will show not only the depth of Portland's struggle, but also the choices America must make. The survival of many cities depends on whether we act now, before it's too late. Real voices. Lives behind Portland's collapse. Portland's collapse is not just statistics or empty streets. It's people, each with a story that deserves to be heard. In this final chapter, we bring those voices forward. Meet Stephanie, a woman living on Portland streets while battling fentanyl addiction. Her interview shows the raw reality of survival, counting down the days of her pregnancy while struggling with the grip of addiction. You can watch her story here.
Have some days like tough.
Stephanie Gomez counts the days.
9 months.
She's homeless and pregnant with her 5th child. This one, unplanned.
I'm getting later and I'm slowing down and I have to keep us safe. And that's just the biggest part, is just like keeping us safe and out of harm's way.
Stephanie is also addicted to fentanyl.
Worried about it. It seems like a lot of people that have delivered with fentanyl seem to be okay. Their kids seem to be okay.
Research shows fentanyl can have devastating impacts on babies exposed to the drug during pregnancy. For Stephanie, it's been 1 year living on these streets, she says.
I was actually married and had kids, and I've been a stay-at-home mom, and so I've always had a place to live. In Portland? In Portland.
Another documentary, Portland in Crisis, Lives Lost to Fentanyl and Homelessness, captures families and workers who once had stability, but now face nights on sidewalks and bridges. Their voices remind us that homelessness is not a choice, but a consequence of pressures too heavy to bear. Watch here in Go. Inside 24 hours of Portland's homeless crisis, journalists followed people across the city for a single day. They documented mothers searching for shelter, workers sleeping outdoors, and communities trying to hold together. See the full coverage here.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I've been in this shelter from the beginning, when it first opened. I'm 60 years old. I'm the oldest one in here.
There we go. I don't know if the city told them to move or what, but they're definitely not here, so we're cleaning up the mess. And make the neighbors happy too. We need a shovel guy.
I want to say over 1,000 meals a day. Me personally, I've been through homelessness before.
She come around and Mom, I love you. You're my best friend. It just makes me so much better about my day. I'm Tiana. I'm 26 years old.
And in the faces of Portland's fentanyl state of emergency, Families share how addiction has torn apart relationships, leaving loved ones on the streets. One mother describes finding her daughter homeless and addicted, yet still trying to keep a connection. These are not distant tragedies. They are voices from Portland's sidewalks, bridges, and shelters. Each interview is a reminder that collapse is not about buildings, it's about people. The survival of America's cities depends on whether we listen to these voices, acknowledge their struggles, and act before the same stories repeat everywhere. The shocking truth: Portland's collapse is America's wake-up call. This is the moment where the story turns from observation to shock. Because what Portland is showing us is not just decline, it's a preview of a future that could arrive faster than anyone expects. Look at the streets. Tents lined up like rows of forgotten homes. Families sleeping in cars. Children doing homework under streetlights. Workers curled up on cardboard after losing everything. These are not isolated images. They are signals of a system under strain, a society at risk of breaking. The shock is not just in what you see, it's in what it means. Economically, collapse spreads like a chain reaction. A shopkeeper locks the doors for the last time. A restaurant closes, leaving workers jobless. Downtown's empty, and the heartbeat of a city slows. Multiply that across America, and the economic cost becomes staggering. Socially, the damage cuts deeper. A child grows up without a stable home. A mother spends nights awake, guarding her family on the sidewalk. Communities lose their sense of safety, and trust begins to erode. Multiply that across America, and the social fabric begins to tear. Culturally, the silence is haunting. Music venues once alive with sound now stand dark. Art spaces close. Pride fades. Cities lose the identity that once defined them. Multiply that across America, and the cultural soul of urban life begins to vanish. So here's the shocking truth. Portland is not just a city in crisis. It is a warning sign flashing for the entire nation, and the questions must escalate. How did a city of progress collapse so fast? Why is America turning away from its own streets, pretending these struggles are invisible? What happens when every city faces the same storm? And what happens if we keep looking away? The urgency is real. Time is running out. If these pressures continue unchecked, sidewalks lined with tents will become the new normal. Families will spend nights in cars across suburbs. Addiction crises will overwhelm health systems coast to coast. The collapse of one city is not just a local tragedy. It is a wake-up call, a signal that the survival of many cities depends on whether we act now, before it's too late. Portland's story is shocking because it forces us to confront what we'd rather ignore. But ignoring it won't make it disappear. Awareness is the first step. Action is the only way forward. Stay with me, because the final message is clear. Portland's collapse is not about one city. It's about all of us. And the choices we make today will decide whether America's cities survive tomorrow. The last word. Why Portland's story must not be ignored. We've walked through Portland's streets together. We've seen the tents, the cardboard beds, the families in cars, the workers who lost everything, and the silence of once vibrant neighborhoods. This is not just a city's collapse. It's a human story that demands attention. The final takeaway is simple but shocking. Portland is a warning, and ignoring it means risking the same fate everywhere. Think of the shopkeeper who closed his store after decades of work. Think of the mother who stays awake all night to keep her children safe on the sidewalk. Think of the young man who once had a steady job, now trapped by fentanyl and sleeping under a bridge. These are not statistics, they are lives. And here's the truth. If we look away, these stories will multiply. More families will lose homes. More workers will lose stability. More communities will lose their identity. So the questions we leave you with are not just about Portland. They are about all of us. What happens when every city faces the same storm? What happens if America keeps turning away from its own streets? And what happens if we wait too long to act? The urgency is real. Time is running out. The collapse of one city is not just a tragedy, it's a wake-up call. This is where the story ends for now, but it's also where your role begins. Share these voices. Talk about what you've seen. Refuse to let these struggles remain invisible. Because awareness is the first step, and action is the only way forward. Portland's collapse is not about one city. It's about the future of urban America. And whether our cities survive tomorrow depends on what we choose to do today. If you found this video powerful, don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next chapter. Because the story of Portland is only the beginning, and the upcoming videos will reveal even more shocking truths. Stay tuned and be part of this journey.